Let me carry you. Now, the cowboy said, after finding the widow. Struggling with 5 children. The wind whipped against his hat, turning the dying daylight into a blurred smear of dust, and he almost missed her at first. A small shadow bent beneath, the weight of a lopsided bundle and 5 shivering little bodies trailing after her like frightened baby quail. He had been riding home with the intention of eating, sleeping, and forgetting the long week behind him. But the sight of that woman, eyes hollowed, lips blue, one shoe missing, the smallest child sobbing, against her hip struck him harder than any bullet he'd ever taken. He slowed his horse, watching her stumble as if her legs barely belonged to her anymore, and for a moment he wondered if she was even aware. She had wandered into open ranch land. The older 3 children kept glancing back over their shoulders, as if expecting something or someone to appear from the darkness behind them. The woman flinched every time they did, clutching the baby tighter, whispering hollow words of reassurance that no longer sounded like she believed them. The cowboy finally nudged his horse forward. She didn't see him at first. She was too focused on staying upright, on shielding the baby with her own ragged coat, on forcing one foot in front of the other, though every step looked like it might be her last. When she did notice him, her reaction wasn't fear. It was something worse. She froze like prey that had accepted its fate, eyes tired, shoulders slumped, as though she no longer had the strength to fight or flee. The cowboy dismounted instantly, raising both hands slowly so the children wouldn't panic. "Ma'am?" he said quietly. Her lips trembled before any sound came out. "Please, just let us pass. We won't cause trouble. We won't stay on your land. Just let me get them somewhere. Somewhere safe." Her voice broke on safe as if the word itself felt like a lie, and that was the moment he knew something terrible had driven her here. Not poverty, not coincidence, something else. Something that might still be following. He took a slow step forward, watching how she swayed as if she might collapse at any second. "You ain't passing anywhere in this condition," he said. "And those little ones look half frozen." Her eyes widened, not in gratitude but in panic. No hospitals. No sheriff. No questions. "I'm begging you, let us go." The cowboy felt a chill climb his spine, colder than the wind. Nobody said that unless they were running from something or someone they were terrified would find them. But her legs buckled then, and he lunged just in time to catch her before she hit the ground, the baby crying as her grip loosened. The children screamed, clutching her arms and skirt, but the cowboy steadied her gently. "Ma'am," he whispered, "if you fall now, none of you are making it another mile. Let me carry you. Let me help the children. I swear on my ranch and on my mama is grave, I'm not turning you in, and I'm not letting anything happen to you." Her eyes fluttered weakly, searching his face as though she might finally allow herself to believe one person wasn't trying to hurt her. And with the last ounce of strength she had left, she whispered, "Please, don't let him find us," and then she passed out. The cowboy lifted her into his arms, lighter than she should have been, the baby whimpering against her chest until he gently transferred the little one into the arms of the eldest girl. He whistled for his horse, secured the woman across the saddle, and helped the children climb up. Their tiny fingers clung to him, trembling. The eldest girl, maybe 10 years old, looked at him with eyes far older than her age. "If he finds us," she whispered, "he'll hurt Mama again." The cowboy's jaw tightened. He wrapped the reins and began leading them toward his ranch as the sun bled. Out behind the mountains, coyotes howled in the distance, and behind them, something moved in the darkness. He didn't see anyone following, but the children kept looking back with the kind of terror that wasn't learned, it was lived. The cowboy walked beside the horse, scanning the land with a soldier's instinct, remembering the wars he'd survived and the unmistakable feeling of being hunted. And that was exactly what his gut told him now. They weren't just running. They were being chased. They reached his ranch as the last light disappeared. The children huddled together while he carried their unconscious mother inside, laying her gently on the bed in the spare room. She was fevered, shaking, breath shallow. He removed her torn shoes, covered her with blankets, and sent one of the kids to warm water. The eldest girl flinched at every creak, every wind slam against the shutters. "He doesn't stop," she whispered. "He promised he'd take us all." "Mama took us and ran." "He's coming," The cowboy knelt beside her. Who is he? The girl swallowed hard. Mama's husband, not the kid's father. Her husband. Something inside the cowboy snapped like a dry twig under a boot. He stood abruptly and checked every door, window, and rifle. The land outside was black and silent. Too silent. Hours passed. The woman woke long enough to whisper. Fragments of what had happened, how she had tried to leave before. How the man had threatened her. How he had taken things too far the last time. How she had finally escaped while he was drunk and passed out. She made it 16 miles before her body gave out. 16 miles carrying a baby and dragging 5 terrified children across rough country. No wonder she collapsed. He told her she was safe now, but she grabbed his shirt with a fevered desperation that broke something inside him. You don't understand, she rasped. He doesn't care if he dies trying to find us. He only cares that I don't leave him. Promise me you won't let him take my babies. The cowboy placed his hand over hers. I ain't letting anyone take anything from you. He barely slept that night, sitting by the door with a shotgun across his lap, listening to the wind scrape claws across the ranch walls. Just before dawn, he heard it. Footsteps, then a low, angry shout from the darkness. A man's voice. I know you're in there. The children woke screaming. The widow jolted upright in terror, and the cowboy felt a calm wash over him, the kind of calm a man only finds when he knows exactly what he must do. He stood and walked out onto the porch before the children could see his rage. The stranger was staggering toward the ranch house, face twisted with fury, one hand gripping a bottle and the other a length of pipe. He looked like a man who had been up for days, fueled by hate and whiskey. You got something that belongs to me, he snarled. The cowboy didn't raise his shotgun yet. Ain't nobody here belongs to you. The man's eyes bulged. My wife, my kids. You're prisoners. You mean? The man swung the pipe as if daring him. She ran from me. She knows better. She's mine. The cowboy felt a cold fury settle into his bones. He stepped off the porch, stopping several feet away, the shotgun hanging loosely at his side. You're on my land. You brought a weapon. You threatened children. If you take one more step, I'll put you in the ground and sleep soundly afterward. The man laughed, a harsh, broken sound. She ain't staying here. Then he lunged. The cowboy fired a warning shot, the blast ripping a chunk of dirt inches from the man's boot. It stopped him in his tracks. Next one ain't a warning, the cowboy said. Turn around, go home. Pray for forgiveness. You ain't getting near her again. But the man wasn't listening. He charged, screaming, swinging the pipe. The cowboy knocked it aside, catching him by the collar and slamming him to the ground with a force that drove the air from his lungs. The shotgun clattered away as the two grappled in the dirt like wild animals. The man was fueled by rage, but the cowboy was fueled by something stronger. The sight of 5 terrified kids clinging to their unconscious mama, begging her to wake up. That image burned behind his eyes with every punch he threw. They rolled through the dirt, the man clawing, biting, thrashing, but the cowboy pinned him, his forearm pressing against the man's throat. You don't get to hurt her again, he growled. Not her, not the children. It ends today. The man swung wildly and missed, but he managed to grab a rock, smashing it into the cowboy's temple. Blood blurred the cowboy's vision. He staggered and the man crawled for the house, for the children. The cowboy saw red. He launched himself forward, tackling him before he reached the porch, wrenching the rock from his hand and throwing it aside. The man clawed at the steps, screaming the widow's name. The cowboy dragged him back, binding his wrists with his belt, ignoring the kicks and curses. He tied him to the hitching post until the sheriff could arrive, because killing him would have been easy, but letting the law bury him alive for what he'd done was justice. The moment the sheriff's wagon disappeared down the road with the howling man inside a cage, the cowboy returned to the house. The children rushed into his arms without hesitation. The widow watched from the bed, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. He approached her slowly, unsure if she needed space or support. She reached for his hand first. I thought he'd get them, she whispered. I thought I'd fail them. You didn't fail him, he said softly. You kept him alive long enough to reach me. Why would you help strangers? She asked, voice trembling. Because no one helped my mother, he said simply. Something in her broke then, not in fear but in relief. The kind of relief people taste only when the nightmare finally ends. Days passed. Her fever faded. The children laughed again. The house warmed with the sound of small footsteps and shy smiles. The widow began helping in the kitchen, on the porch around the ranch, insisting on earning her keep. But the cowboy refused to let her push herself too hard. One afternoon, as she tried to lift a heavy bucket and nearly stumbled, he caught it and her before either dropped. Her breath hitched, startled. He held her gently, his hands steadying her waist, his voice low. "Let me carry you now." She looked up at him, eyes shining with something that wasn't fear anymore. "I don't want to be a burden." "You ain't," he murmured. "Not to me. Not ever." And in the quiet that followed, she allowed herself to lean into him, trusting him more in that single moment than she had trusted any man in years. Winter settled on the ranch. But inside the house there was warmth, real warmth born of safety, healing, and something slowly growing between two wounded souls. The cowboy found himself repairing the old wagon into something big enough for all 6 of them. He fixed the barn roof so the children could play inside without snow leaking through. He carved the youngest a tiny wooden horse. And every night as the widow tucked her children into bed, she would glance toward the living room, where the cowboy sat, cleaning his rifle or staring into the fire. She would watch him for several seconds longer each night. And one evening she crossed the room and sat beside him. They didn't speak at first. They didn't need to. The crackling fire spoke for them. "You saved us," she whispered finally. "All of us." "You saved yourself," he replied. "I just helped you finish the run." She rested her head on his shoulder, the trembling finally gone from her body. Outside, the snow fell softly, peacefully. For the first time in years, the children slept without fear, and the widow allowed herself to dream of a future not built around surviving, but living. The cowboy wrapped an arm around her, gently, holding her as though she were something fragile but precious, something he would honor, not own, not command, but protect because he wanted her to feel free again. The fire crackled, her breathing steadied, and the ranch, once a place of silence, felt alive. The cowboy closed his eyes and whispered into her hair, so soft she nearly missed it. "You and those kids, you're safe here." She squeezed his hand, her voice barely a breath. "I know." And as the snowstorm deepened outside, the cowboy held the woman he had found collapsing on the open road, the woman who survived the impossible, the woman whose 5 children now slept peacefully under his roof, and he vowed, silently, that no storm, no man, no ghost from her past would ever touch her again, not while he lived. And for the first time since she arrived half-conscious and terrified, the widow whispered words he never expected to hear. "I trust you." It was not a confession, not a promise, not a declaration of love. It was something deeper. It was a beginning,